My daughter-in-law told everyone she saved my life during an asthma attack. She lied. She actually stood over me and watched me suffocate. Here is the video evidence that turned her heroic act into a 20-year prison sentence. Breathing is a negotiation. For most people, it is an automatic function, a silent contract with the atmosphere that they sign at birth and never read again until the day they die. But for me, for Evelyn Porter, breathing is a haggling process. I have to ask my lungs for permission to take in oxygen. And on the bad days, my lungs simply say no. It was a Tuesday in Seattle. The kind of Tuesday that feels less like a day of the week and more like a heavy woolen blanket dropped over the city. The rain was not falling so much as it was hanging in the air, a persistent gray mist that seeped through the window frames and settled into the drywall. I could feel the barometric pressure dropping in my joints, but mostly, I felt it in my chest. I sat in my armchair in the downstairs apartment of the house on Elm Street. My son, Jason, called it the garden level suite. Real estate agents call it a mother-in-law unit. I called it what it was, the basement. It was damp, it was dark, and it was the only place I could afford to live after I liquidated my pension to help Jason and his wife, Brittany, with the down payment on the upstairs. I am 68 years old. I am a retired court stenographer. For 40 years, I sat in the corner of King County courtrooms, my fingers moving across the keys of a steno machine at 250 words per minute. I recorded confessions. I recorded verdicts. I recorded the exact moment a witness realized they had been caught in a lie. I learned to be invisible. I learned that if you sit still enough, people forget you are there. They stop filtering their words. They show you exactly who they are. On this Tuesday, I was practicing that stillness. My lungs were tight, a feeling like a leather belt being pulled one notch too close around my ribs. I had my humidifier running in the corner, puffing out a gentle stream of cool mist. On the side table, next to a cup of lukewarm chamomile tea, sat my lifeline, my albuterol rescue inhaler. The red plastic casing was scratched from use, but the canister inside was full. I had checked it that morning. I always checked it. I heard the footsteps upstairs before I heard the door open. Brittany walked heavy. For a woman who claimed to be a fitness influencer, a woman who made her living posting videos of herself doing yoga on a paddleboard, she moved through the world with the grace of a bulldozer. I heard the thud of her sneakers on the hardwood floor above my head. I heard the muffled bass of the pop music she blasted while she created content. Then, the basement door at the top of the stairs flew open. "Evelyn!" she shouted down the stairwell. She never called me Mom. She never called me Mrs. Porter. She called me Evelyn, but she said it with a tone that suggested the name itself was an inconvenience. "I am down here, Brittany," I called back. My voice was thin. I was trying to conserve breath. She came down the stairs 2 at a time. Brittany was 32 years old. She was beautiful in a way that felt manufactured, teeth too white, skin too tan, hair perfectly waved in a style that I knew took her an hour to achieve every morning. She was wearing a neon pink sports bra and matching leggings, holding a phone in one hand and a cleaning bucket in the other. She stopped in the middle of my living room and wrinkled her nose. "God, it smells like a nursing home down here," she said. "It smells like tea and rain, Brittany," I said calmly. "What do you need?" "I need to film," she said, gesturing around my small, tidy apartment. "The lighting upstairs is terrible today because of the clouds. I need to use this space for my core crusher workout video. I told my followers I would post at 4 o'clock. She didn't ask. She never asked. She assumed that because her name was on the deed right next to Jason's, and right above mine, in the invisible hierarchy of this household, that my space was her space. "Brittany, I am not feeling well today," I said. I rested my hand on my chest, feeling the rattle of a wheeze beginning to build. "My asthma is flaring up. I need quiet. and I need the air to stay still." She rolled her eyes. It was a theatrical gesture, one she probably practiced in the mirror. "You are always sick, Evelyn. It is always something. My followers love the gritty look of this brick wall. Just move your chair. Go in the bedroom or something." "I cannot move the chair," I said. "I am hooked up to the nebulizer prep. I am waiting for the medicine to settle." She sighed, a loud, exasperated exhalation that filled the room with her annoyance. She set the bucket down on my coffee table, pushing aside my reading glasses. "Fine," she said. "If you are going to sit there, I at least need to freshen the place up. It smells musty. It ruins the vibe." She reached into the bucket and pulled out a tall, silver can. I recognized the label immediately. Industrial Strength Odor Eliminator, Pine Forest Scent. My heart hammered a warning against my ribs. "Brittany, no," I said, sitting up straighter. "Please, do not spray that down here. The aerosol triggers my bronchial spasms. You know this. Jason told you." "Jason worries too much," she said, shaking the can. The metal ball inside rattled ominously. Clack, clack, clack. "And you are being dramatic. It is just air freshener. It is organic or something." It was not organic. It was a chemical cocktail designed to mask the smell of locker rooms and dumpsters. It was poison to lungs like mine. "Brittany, I am asking you," I said, my voice rising in pitch as the panic set in. "Please, do not." She looked at me. Her eyes were cold. They were the eyes of a woman who had never been told no in her entire life, and who viewed any boundary as a personal insult. "You live in my house, Evelyn," she said. "You live here practically for free. The least you can do is let me make it smell decent. This is the moment where you see who people really are. It is not when they are on camera, smiling for their followers. It is when they are alone with someone vulnerable, someone who is begging for mercy. If you have ever dealt with a person who uses their power to crush the weak, who smiles while they hurt you, hit that subscribe button right now. We are going to expose every single one of them." She lifted her arm. She pointed the nozzle not at the center of the room, but directly at the intake vent of the HVAC system, which sat on the wall 3 feet above my head, the system that was currently pulling air right past my face. She pressed the button. A thick, white cloud of chemical mist shot out of the can. It hit the vent and dispersed instantly. A heavy, cloying fog that smelled of fake pine needles and burning alcohol. It hit me in seconds. My throat didn't just close. It slammed shut. It felt like a portcullis dropping in a castle gate. The chemical burned the lining of my trachea. My lungs seized, freezing in a rigid spasm of defense. I gasped. But no air came in. It is a terrifying thing, to command your body to breathe and have it refuse. The silence of it is the worst part. There is no screaming during an asthma attack. There is only the desperate, high-pitched whistle of air trying to squeeze through a hole the size of a coffee stirrer. I clutched the arms of my chair. My fingernails dug into the fabric. My vision began to spot with white lights. "See?" Brittany said, spraying another burst. This time, closer to me. Fresh. Much better. I couldn't speak. I couldn't tell her to stop. I could only move. I reached out with my right hand. My movements were jerky, uncoordinated. I fumbled for the side table. I needed the red inhaler. I needed the albuterol. It was the key to the lock in my chest. My fingers brushed the cool plastic of the inhaler, but before I could close my grip around it, a hand snatched it away. I looked up. My eyes were watering. Tears streaming down my face from the effort of trying to pull oxygen. Brittany was standing over me. She was holding the inhaler. She was not handing it to me. She was holding it up, inspecting it, turning it over in her manicured fingers, as if it were a curious artifact she had found at a garage sale. "You rely on these too much," she said conversationally. It is a crutch. If you did more cardio, Evelyn, your lungs wouldn't be so weak. It is mind over matter. I reached for her. I clawed at the air. I made a sound, a guttural, wet, clicking noise in the back of my throat. It was the sound of a drowning woman. She took a step back. Just one step. Just far enough to be out of my reach. Give, I mouthed. I couldn't say the word. My lips were turning numb. My chest was burning, a hot, searing fire spreading through my rib cage. Brittany looked down at me. She smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. It wasn't the smile she used in her selfies. It was a sneer. It was a look of pure, unadulterated contempt. She looked at me the way a boot looks at an ant. You look ridiculous, she whispered, all red and puffy. You are ruining my aesthetic. I tried to stand up. My legs buckled. I slumped forward, sliding off the chair onto the rug. The world was turning gray at the edges. The tunnel vision was closing in. I was going to die. I was going to die on the floor of my own basement while my daughter-in-law watched. She leaned down. She brought her face close to mine. I could smell her perfume. It was sweet, sickeningly sweet. She held the inhaler just inches from my face. I reached for it, my hand trembling violently. "Gasp, loser!" she hissed. The words hung in the air, heavier than the chemical mist. Gasp. Loser? She stood there and watched. She watched as my eyes rolled back. She watched as my body convulsed, fighting for air that wasn't there. She watched for 10 seconds, 20 seconds, 30 seconds. She was timing it. She was enjoying it. She was proving to herself that she was the one with the power, the one who decided who breathed and who suffocated. There is a special place in hell for people who mock the suffering of others. But in this life, we do not wait for hell. We wait for the court of law. If you want to see this woman pay for every single second she held that inhaler, like this video, let's make sure the whole world sees her face. When my vision finally went black, when my body went limp on the carpet, she must have decided she had made her point. Or perhaps she worried that a corpse would be too difficult to explain to her followers. I felt something hard hit the carpet near my ear. "Oops," she said. Her voice was flat, bored. Clumsy me. I heard her footsteps walking away. I heard her pick up her bucket. "Clean this mess up before Jason gets home," she called out over her shoulder. "I can't film with you flopping around like a fish." I heard her walk up the stairs. I heard the door close. I was alone in the dark, gray room. Survival is an instinct. It does not require thought. It requires only the desperate animal need to continue. My hand moved on its own. It scrabbled across the carpet fibers. It found the plastic casing. I brought the inhaler to my lips. My hands were shaking so badly I almost dropped it again. I pressed the canister. Puff. The bitter taste of the medicine hit the back of my throat. I tried to inhale. It was a shallow, ragged sip of air. I waited. 1 second. 2 seconds. The drug hit the receptors in my lungs. The iron bands around my chest began to loosen. Just a fraction. Just enough. I took another puff. And another. A wheeze tore out of my throat, loud and jagged. It was the ugliest sound I had ever made, but to me, it sounded like a choir. It was the sound of air moving. I lay on the floor for a long time. 10 minutes, maybe 20. I lay there breathing. In, out, in, out. Each breath was a victory. Each breath was an act of defiance. My heart was racing at 140 beats per minute. My skin was clammy with cold sweat. I felt weak, hollowed out, terrified. But as the oxygen returned to my brain, something else returned with it. The stenographer returned. The woman who sat in courtrooms for 40 years and noticed the things that lawyers missed. The woman who noticed the twitch in a defendant's eye, the tremor in a liar's hand. I rolled onto my back. I looked up at the ceiling. I looked at the intake vent where the poison had entered. And then I looked to my left. Over by the bookshelf, nestled between a copy of Black's Law Dictionary and a heavy volume of Washington State criminal statutes, was a small, black object. It was the size of a matchbox. It was a motion-activated security camera. I had bought it 3 weeks ago. Not because I feared for my life, but because I had noticed my jewelry going missing. A pair of pearl earrings. A gold brooch. I suspected Brittany was borrowing them for her photo shoots and forgetting to return them. I wanted proof. I had set it up to cover the living area, to cover the chair where I sat. I looked at the camera. A tiny green light was blinking. Blink, blink, blink. It was recording. It had a wide-angle lens. It had a high-definition microphone. It had seen the spray. It had seen the struggle. It had seen her face when she smiled. And it had heard her. Gasp, loser. I lay on the floor, my chest still heaving, my throat raw and burning. Tears leaked from the corners of my eyes, pooling in my ears. But I stopped, shaking. Brittany thought this was a private moment. She thought it was her word against the word of a sick, confused old woman. She thought she could tell Jason that I had a panic attack, that I misplaced my medicine, that she had tried to help me. She didn't know about the record. In my line of work, we have a saying: if it is not on the record, it did not happen. But this was on the record. I reached up and wiped the tears from my face. I pulled myself up to a sitting position, leaning against the armchair. I picked up the inhaler and put it in my pocket. I looked at the camera again. You have the right to remain silent, I whispered to the empty room, my voice raspy and broken. But you didn't. Brittany Porter had just given her performance of a lifetime, and she had no idea that the trial had already begun. Jason came home at 6 o'clock. I heard his key turn in the lock, followed by the heavy sigh of a man who dreads entering his own house. I was sitting in my armchair, the same chair where I had nearly died 4 hours earlier, sipping water and watching the evening news with the volume turned low. The air in the basement still carried a faint, chemical tang of pine, but the ventilation system had done its work. My chest felt bruised, aching with every inhale, but the air was moving. I heard Brittany's footsteps hurrying to the front door to meet him. "Babe, you are home early." Her voice was bright, frantic. She was already spinning the narrative. I muted the television. I closed my eyes. I listened. The vents in this house carried sound just as efficiently as they carried poison. "Hey," Jason said. "Long day. What smells like? Chemicals?" "Oh, that," Brittany said quickly. "I was cleaning downstairs. Evelyn had a little episode today. It smelled really musty down there, so I tried to freshen it up, and she just panicked. You know how she gets. She had an asthma attack." Jason's voice sharpened slightly. "A small one," Brittany lied. "She misplaced her inhaler again. I had to help her find it. Honestly, Jason, it was scary. She was flailing around on the floor. I think she is getting confused. She didn't even remember where she put her medicine." I handed it to her just in time. I opened my eyes. I stared at the ceiling. She handed it to her. The lie was so bold, so perfectly inverted from the truth, that I almost admired the audacity. "Is she okay?" Jason asked. "She is fine now. Resting." I told her to just stay downstairs and relax. I didn't want to disturb her. Brittany paused, and I could hear the pout in her voice. But she yelled at me. "Jason!" She called me names. After I helped her. "She yelled at you?" She was delirious, I think. But it hurt. I try so hard to make this house nice for everyone, and she just looks at me like I am the enemy. I will talk to her, Jason said. His footsteps started toward the basement door. No, don't, Brittany said, her voice dropping. Just let her sleep. We can talk about, well, about the living arrangements later. I really think we need to look at that brochure for the facility in Bellevue. For her safety. The favorite phrase of the tyrant. The basement door opened. Jason walked down the stairs. He looked tired. He wore his suit like a costume he couldn't wait to take off. He saw me sitting in the chair. He saw the red inhaler on the table. "Mom?" he asked. "Hello, Jason." He stood in the middle of the room, hands in his pockets. He looked around, sniffing the air. Brittany said, "You had an attack." I did. She said you lost your inhaler. I looked at him. This was my son, the boy I had taught to ride a bike, the boy I had protected from bullies, the boy I had sold my own house to support. "Is that what she said?" I asked, quietly. "Mom, you have to be more careful," he said, and there was an edge of irritation in his voice. Brittany was really shaken up. She called me at work, worried sick. She was trying to help you clean. And you snapped at her? I did not snap, Jason. I was suffocating. "Because you got worked up over air freshener?" he said, shaking his head. "Look, I know you don't like her style. I know you don't like the noise. But she is my wife. She lives here. She has a right to clean her own house without being screamed at." "Screamed?" I whispered. "I couldn't speak, Jason. I couldn't breathe." "She saved you, Mom," he said, stepping closer. "She found your inhaler. You should be thanking her, not making her feel like a villain in her own home." He looked at me with disappointment. He believed her. Of course he believed her. She was young, vibrant, and sleeping in his bed. I was old, sick, and living in his basement. I looked at the bookshelf. I looked at the tiny black camera nestled between the dictionaries. I could stand up right now. I could pull the SD card. I could put it in my laptop and show him the video. I could show him the sneer. I could play the audio of "Gasp, loser." But as I looked at his face, a face already set in a mask of defensive exhaustion, I realized something terrifying. If I showed him the video now, he might not call the police. He might cry. He might scream at her. But then she would cry. She would say she didn't mean it. She would say it was a joke. She would manipulate him. And Jason, weak, conflict-averse Jason, might just delete the video to save the family. He might bury the evidence to avoid a divorce. And then I would be truly defenseless. I took a deep breath. "You are right, Jason." I lied. I was confused. The lack of oxygen, it makes the mind play tricks. "Tell Brittany thank you for finding my medicine." Jason relaxed visibly. His shoulders dropped. "Okay. Good. I just want peace, Mom. That is all I want." "I know," I said. "Go have dinner." He went back upstairs. I heard him tell Brittany that I had apologized. I heard them laugh. I sat in the chair for a long time. I waited until the house went dark. I waited until midnight. Then I stood up. I walked to the bookshelf. I took the camera. I removed the memory card. I placed it in a small plastic case, and I put the case inside my bra, right against my heart. The chain of custody had begun. The next morning, I waited until Jason left for work at 7:30. I dressed in my charcoal gray suit, the one I used to wear for felony trials. I pinned my hair back into a tight bun. I put on my spectacles. I did not look like a grandmother. I looked like the woman who kept the official record for the Superior Court of Washington. I called a taxi. I did not use a rideshare app that Jason could track. I paid cash. "Where to, ma'am?" the driver asked. "The 3rd precinct," I said. "And please, Hurry. The police station smelled the way it always did: stale coffee, floor wax, and adrenaline. I walked through the front doors, with my purse held tight against my side. The desk sergeant was young, a man I didn't recognize. "Help you?" he asked, barely looking up. "My name is Evelyn Porter," I said clearly. "I am a retired court stenographer for King County. I need to speak with Detective Marcus Holloway. He works homicide and violent crimes." The sergeant paused. He looked at my suit. He looked at the steel in my spine. "Is he expecting you?" "No," I said. "But tell him it concerns the State versus Ramirez case from 1998. He will see me." The sergeant picked up the phone. 2 minutes later, the buzz of the security door sounded. Marcus Holloway stepped into the lobby. He was older now, his hair graying at the temples, but he still walked with the same heavy, deliberate gait of a man who has seen too much evil to be surprised by it. He squinted at me. Then his face softened. "Evelyn?" he asked. "Evelyn Porter? My God, I haven't seen you since your retirement party." "Hello, Marcus," I said. He looked at my face. He saw the bruise on my jaw where I had hit the floor. He saw the tremor in my hands that I was trying to hide. "What happened?" he asked. His voice shifted instantly from friend to detective. "I need to report a crime," I said. "I have evidence, electronic evidence." "Come back," he said, holding the door open. We went to a small interview room. It was gray, windowless, and quiet. I sat at the metal table. Marcus sat opposite me. He didn't ask me to start at the beginning. He waited. He knew I would give him the facts in order. "Yesterday, at approximately 2:15 in the afternoon," I began, my voice steady, "my daughter-in-law, Brittany Porter, entered my residence. She deployed a chemical aerosol directly into the air intake of my room, knowing I have severe asthma. When I went into anaphylactic shock and bronchial spasm, I attempted to reach my rescue inhaler." I paused. I reached into my blouse and pulled out the memory card. I placed it on the table. "She took it from me," I said. "She withheld it. She stood over me and watched me suffocate. She taunted me." Marcus went very still. "Withheld it? For how long?" "Approximately 40 seconds. Until I lost consciousness." "Evelyn," he said softly, "if this is true, that is not just assault. That is attempted murder with depraved indifference." "I know the statutes, Marcus," I said. "I typed them for 40 years. I pushed the card toward him. "It is all on here, audio and video, high definition." Marcus stood up. He left the room and came back with a laptop. He inserted the card. He turned the screen so we both could see. We watched the video in silence. We saw Brittany enter. We saw the spray. We saw my hands clawing at the air. And then we saw the moment. The moment she snatched the red inhaler. The moment she leaned in. The audio was crisp. Gasp. Loser. Marcus slammed the laptop shut. The sound echoed like a gunshot in the small room. His face was dark. His jaw was clenched so hard a muscle jumped in his cheek. "Jesus," he whispered. "She thinks I am senile," I said. "She thinks I don't remember. She is currently upstairs in my house, filming workout videos." Marcus looked at me. "She is in the house right now?" "Yes." "Is there another entrance to your unit?" "The back door. But the interior stairs connect the units." Marcus stood up. He picked up his radio. "I am going to need a warrant. And I am going to need backup. Evelyn, I don't want you going back there alone." "I have to go back," I said. "If I am not there, she will suspect something. I will go back. I will sit in my chair. I will wait." "Evelyn." "I will be fine, Marcus," I said, "because I know you are coming." He looked at me with a mixture of worry and admiration. "We will be there in 2 hours. We need to get the judge to sign off on the digital evidence. Sit tight. Lock your door. I took a taxi back to the house. I slipped in through the back garden door. I changed out of my suit and back into my cardigan and house slippers. I sat in my armchair. I set up my steno machine, the small, specialized keyboard I had kept all these years. I placed it on my lap. I waited. Upstairs, I could hear the thumping of bass. Brittany was filming again. She was jumping around, shouting encouragement to her invisible audience. "Push through the pain," she yelled. "Don't quit. Weakness is a choice." I rested my fingers on the keys of the steno machine. "Weakness is a choice," I typed. WKNSSAKOIS. An hour passed. Then 2. At 1:15 in the afternoon, the music upstairs stopped abruptly. I heard the heavy, authoritative pounding on the front door. Bang! "Police, open up!" I heard Brittany's footsteps running to the door. I heard the door open. "What is this?" she asked. Her voice was high, confused. "I am streaming. You are ruining my lighting." "Brittany Porter?" It was Marcus's voice. "You are under arrest for assault in the first degree and attempted murder." "What?" she shrieked. "Are you crazy? I didn't touch anyone." I began to type. Q. "Are you crazy? I didn't touch anyone." "Turn around," Marcus said. "Hands behind your back." "Jason!" she screamed. "Jason! Help! They are hurting me." "Jason isn't here, Brittany," Marcus said. "But we have the video." "Video? What video?" "The video of you withholding life-saving medication from Evelyn Porter." There was a silence upstairs. A heavy, suffocating silence. Then, the sound of handcuffs clicking. Click, click. "You have the right to remain silent," Marcus recited. "My mother-in-law is crazy," Brittany screamed. "She is making this up. She is senile. She did this." I typed every word. My fingers flew across the keys. I was capturing the record. "She is making this up. She is senile." They dragged her out. I heard the front door close. The house went quiet. I sat alone in the basement. I looked at the intake vent. The air was clean. I looked at my steno machine. The paper tape had fed out a few inches. It was a perfect transcript of justice. I tore the paper off. I folded it neatly and put it in my pocket. Then I picked up the phone and dialed Jason's office number. "Jason," I said when he answered, "you need to come home. And you need to call a lawyer. But not for me. The King County Courthouse has a specific smell. It is a mixture of floor wax, old paper, and nervous sweat. For 40 years, I walked into this building through the employee entrance, flashing my badge, carrying my steno machine in its rolling case. I was part of the furniture. I was the silent woman in the corner who turned tragedy into transcripts. Today, I walked in through the public entrance. I went through the metal detectors. I sat on the wooden bench in courtroom 4B, not in the stenographer's chair, but in the front row of the gallery. I brought my own seat cushion. The benches are mahogany, beautiful to look at, but unforgiving on a 68-year-old spine. Jason sat 3 rows behind me. He hadn't spoken to me since the phone call. When he arrived, he looked like a man who had not slept in days. His suit was rumpled. His tie was crooked. He tried to catch my eye, but I kept my gaze forward. He was not here as my son today. He was here as the husband of the defendant. The bailiff called the court to order. "All rise." Judge Walters entered. I knew him well. He was a stern man with bushy eyebrows and a low tolerance for theatrics. He had presided over the gang trials of the 90s. He had seen the worst of humanity, and he had sent it to prison with a bang of his gavel. He took his seat. "Be seated." Calling the case of the state of Washington versus Brittany Porter. The side door opened. Brittany walked in. She was wearing an orange jumpsuit. The county orange does not flatter anyone, but it is particularly harsh on someone whose entire identity is built on filters and ring lights. Her hair, usually a cascade of beach waves, was pulled back into a messy, greasy knot. Her face was scrubbed clean of makeup, revealing pale skin and dark circles under her eyes. She looked smaller. She looked younger. She looked terrified. She scanned the room desperately until she found Jason. Her eyes locked onto him, and she gave a small, trembling chin wobble. She was trying to play the victim. She was trying to act like the frightened girl who had just made a mistake. But then she saw me. She saw me sitting in the front row, upright, calm, wearing my charcoal suit. Her eyes went wide. She flinched physically, as if I had slapped her. She looked away quickly, staring down at the shackles on her wrists. Her lawyer stood up. He was a man I didn't recognize, a strip mall attorney with a shiny suit and a nervous habit of clicking his pen. Jason must have hired him in a panic. "Your Honor," the lawyer began, "we are asking for release on own recognizance. This is a misunderstanding, a domestic dispute that got out of hand. My client is a respected content creator with no prior criminal record. She is not a flight risk." Judge Walters looked over his spectacles. "A domestic dispute? Mr. Crawley, the charge is attempted assault in the first degree. The prosecutor alleges she withheld life-saving medication from a woman in respiratory distress." "Allegedly, Your Honor," the lawyer said quickly. "My client maintains that she was trying to help the victim, who was confused and disoriented. The victim is elderly and prone to episodes." I sat very still. Elderly, prone to episodes. It was the same narrative she had fed Jason. The prosecutor stood up. She was a young woman, sharp as a tack, whom I had worked with on a fraud case 2 years ago. "Your Honor," she said, "the state opposes release. We have digital evidence that contradicts the defendant's version of events entirely. We would like to play that evidence for the court." "Proceed," Judge Walters said. The prosecutor connected her laptop to the courtroom's AV system. A large screen descended from the ceiling. The video began. It was grainy at first, then sharpened as the camera focused. The courtroom watched Brittany enter the basement. They heard her voice, loud and entitled. "It smells like a nursing home down here." They saw her pull out the can. They saw me beg her to stop. "Brittany, no! Please, do not!" They saw the spray. The white cloud hitting the vent. Jason shifted in his seat behind me. I could hear his breathing hitch. Then, the struggle. The camera captured my face turning red, my hands clawing at my throat. It captured the desperate, whistling sound of my lungs locking down. It captured Brittany picking up the inhaler. The courtroom went dead silent. You could hear a pin drop. On the screen, Brittany held the medicine just out of reach. She watched me die. And then, the audio filled the room, amplified by the court speakers. Gasp. Loser. That sound. That sneer. It is the sound of pure, unfiltered cruelty. We live in a world where people think they can treat others like garbage as long as there is no camera. But the truth always comes out. If you believe that abusers should face the consequences no matter who they are, hit that like button. Let's make sure everyone hears the record. A collective gasp went through the gallery. It wasn't just shock. It was revulsion. I heard a sound behind me. A choked, wet sob. It was Jason. He had finally seen it. He had finally seen the woman he married. Stripped of her lies. He saw her watching his mother suffocate for sport. Judge Walters stared at the screen for a long moment after the video ended. His face was unreadable, but his knuckles were white where he gripped his pen. He looked at Brittany. She was shrinking in her seat. She wasn't looking at Jason anymore. She was looking at the table, tears streaming down her face, not the cute influencer tears she used for apology videos, but the ugly, snotty tears of someone realizing their life is over. "Mr. Crawley," Judge Walters said. His voice was dangerously quiet. "Did you just describe this as a misunderstanding?" The lawyer loosened his tie. "Your Honor, I had not seen the video with audio prior to this moment. It seems your client neglected to mention the part where she taunted the victim while withholding oxygen," Judge Walters said. "This is not a domestic dispute. This is depraved indifference. This is cruelty." He looked at Brittany. "Brittany Porter, I am setting bail at $500,000. $500,000!" Brittany shrieked. She stood up. "I don't have that. Jason! Jason! Tell them! Sit down!" The bailiff barked. "And," Judge Walters continued, raising his voice over her hysterics, "I am issuing an immediate order of protection. You are to have no contact with Evelyn Porter. You are not to come within 500 feet of her residence. If you make bail, you will be outfitted with a GPS monitor. Do you understand?" "But I live there," Brittany wailed. "That is my house. My studio is there." "Not anymore," Judge Walters said. "Next case." The gavel banged. The sound rang through the room like a church bell. 2 officers moved in. They grabbed Brittany by the arms. She was screaming now, a raw, primal sound. She looked at Jason as they dragged her toward the side door. "Jason! Do something! She set me up! She is a witch!" Jason didn't move. He didn't look at her. He had his head in his hands. I stood up. I smoothed my skirt. I picked up my purse. I walked toward the exit. I had to pass Jason to leave. He looked up as I approached. His face was gray. His eyes were red-rimmed and hollow. "Mom," he whispered. I stopped. I looked at him. "You didn't know because you didn't want to know," I said. "I am so sorry." He wept. "I will fix this. I will. I will get her help. Maybe. She is sick." "She is not sick, Jason. She is mean. There is no pill for that." I adjusted my glasses. "I am going home," I said. "I am going to call the locksmith. I am changing the codes on the door." "Mom, I can't. I can't pay the mortgage on my own," he stammered. "Not with the legal fees." "Then you have a choice to make," I said. "You can pay for the woman who tried to kill your mother, or you can pay for the roof over your head. But you cannot do both." "Are you kicking me out?" "I am the co-signer on the loan," I reminded him. "I put down the deposit. If you default, the bank takes it. Or I take it." He stared at me. He had never seen me like this. He had only seen the quiet woman in the basement. "I suggest you find a couch to sleep on, Jason," I said. "Because until you figure out whose side you are on, you are not welcome in my house." I walked out of the courtroom. I walked out into the Seattle rain. It felt different today. It didn't feel heavy. It felt like a cleansing wash. I took a taxi home. The house was quiet. The music was gone. I walked downstairs to the garden level. I looked at the intake vent. I looked at the armchair. I sat down. I took a deep breath. My lungs expanded. Fully. Deeply. There was no chemical sting. There was no tightness. I picked up the phone. I called the locksmith. "This is Evelyn Porter," I said. "I need my locks rekeyed. Immediately." Then I picked up my steno machine. I placed it on my lap. I looked at the blank tape. A new record. I typed one sentence. "I can breathe. IKANBRET." And for the first time in years, I did.